Hey YouTube, Primanox007 here, coming to you with my ceiling fan, and we're going to do a review of Pump Up the Volume, which is a movie that was put out by New Line Cinema in 1990, and it stars Christian Slater and Samantha Mathis, mostly Christian Slater. Why am I doing a movie review? I don't do movie reviews, it's not my bag, but this is probably my favorite movie of all time, and it speaks to me personally for reasons that I'll go into a little bit later. But it's a movie that I think was really ahead of its time in many ways. I know that term kind of gets thrown around a lot, excuse me, but it's really pertinent in this case. The movie centers around a character, Mark, played by Christian Slater. Mark is a teenager in high school, and he and his family move from New York to Arizona because his father is offered a job as a superintendent of this really prestigious, highly ranked school in Arizona. So they move out to Arizona, new place, new surroundings, new school, new atmosphere, the whole works. And Mark is really a fish out of water. So that he doesn't feel disconnected or lonely or miss his friends back home. Granted, this is 1990, so the internet's not a thing yet, at least not the web. His parents buy him a ham radio kit, okay, an amateur radio kit, and Mark puts it together so he can contact his friends back home. But when he builds it and fires it up, there's nobody there. He can't make contact with anyone back home. And so rather than falling into a pit of utter depression, he decides to use that ham radio kit to start broadcasting on open FM frequencies. And by open, I mean there isn't a station already broadcasting on it. Totally illegal. Pirate radio station, not supposed to do it. He does. In doing so, he starts just from his basement venting into the universe his fears, his frustrations, his anxieties, things that he finds that are wrong with the school that he's in, with society at large, and it just kind of snowballs from there. He dons the moniker, and I'll use the cleaned up version, Hard Harry. He uses a voice disguiser so no one would know that it was him, and he sets up a P.O. box for people to send mail should they listen to the show, and sets up a phone number for people to call, again, if they want to interact with him on the show. And the reason why this is pertinent, more so now than when it first came out, is that's what YouTube is. That is what podcasting is. That is what Twitch is in a lot of respects, is people having an outlet for their art, for their frustrations, a means of shouting into the universe, shouting into the void. But the thing that Mark learns, and I'm not going to spoil anything, is people, kids from all different walks of life, people you would think have nothing in common, start listening to the show, start talking about the show, start interacting with him through the show. And they don't know that it's him, and he doesn't know who these people are necessarily unless they name themselves. Most people go under some kind of alias. But in contacting Hard Harry and listening and resonating with the things that he says, they begin to group together themselves. The kids start to meet in places where the frequency is the strongest, where the signal is the strongest, and they can listen to the show better. Because it's just a ham radio kit. It's not that powerful. And I think one of the big places that they congregate is on the school's athletic field. And the kids who start showing up, it runs the gamut. There's the jocks, the nerds, the preps, the rich kids, the poor kids, the troublemakers, all these people who would normally think they have nothing in common and nothing to say to each other. They start to come together and realize that they're not so very different. Yes, there are some things that are going to be different, but they share a lot of important things in common, and they have a lot of the same fears and anxieties and problems that other people wouldn't think of, that you don't show the rest of the world. And they start to build this community around Hard Harry. And this is why the movie is ahead of its time, because like I said, this is YouTube, Twitch, live streaming and such. And two, the communities that it creates and really making connections between people, not just with the host and the listener, but amongst the listeners. If you haven't seen this movie, I would highly recommend that you find it. It's not available, as far as I know, on any streaming service, so you'd have to either outright buy it. It's like $5 on eBay for a used DVD. You know, maybe check out your local library for it. It is worth the viewing. It is absolutely worth the viewing. You will not be sorry if you watch this movie. Especially if you're a content creator, this movie is for you. Never downplay the important role that you fill in the world. Even if you have like 1 subscriber, 2 subscribers, you never know who it is you're talking to, and you never know what impact you can have on that person, and that person may have on somebody else. The reason why it's pertinent to me in particular is Mark is a person who struggles to find his voice. That's me. I have social anxiety issues, and to a large extent, the internet has allowed me over the years to have some kind of an outlet to scream into the void. I like using that term, as you can tell. But that's what it feels like sometimes, just shouting out into the universe and, hoping to get some kind of feedback, or at least just getting it out of myself before it turns toxic. And Mark struggles to find his voice. And eventually, through the film, he does. And that is something that resonates very strongly with me. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who know what I'm talking about. So if you haven't seen Pump Up the Volume, find it, track it down. It is worth the watching. So that's it. I intend to do a follow-up video more focused on the community aspect of this and content creators. I may just leave this as it is, but we'll see how it goes. But until then, if there is a then, this is Primanox007 signing off.